Oh, okay. All right, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville, and the City Council sitting as the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, Victorville Redevelopment Agency, and the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. We have a closed session agenda, but before that we have public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council? Seeing no one, we'll closed session.
Thank you, Mayor McEachran. On the closed session, we have listed on the agenda 3 items. I would like to clarify with respect to item 2 on the redevelopment agency that the negotiating party on behalf of the city is the Director of Economic Development. With respect to item number 3 on the City Council agenda, also the negotiating party on behalf of the city is Director of Economic Development. In addition, the other item obviously pertains to existing litigation. The name of the litigation and the case number are set forth on the agenda. We are also going to continue the closed session item from the 2:30 meeting. Item number 2 on that agenda pertain to VVWRA. In addition, I would request that you consider adding an item as an urgency matter. It would be to discuss existing litigation under Government Code 54956.9A. The litigation is between Leading Edge versus the City of Victorville and Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, case number CIVVS 13865. The reason for the urgency is, as of about an hour ago, Mr. Metzler has been in discussions with the President and the Chief Executive of Leading Edge in an attempt to settle this litigation. The potential settlement would require the possibility of entering into a lease prior to the end of the month. We do not have another meeting before that time, so he would like to get direction from you. That would require a finding of urgency based on those 2 facts to discuss that item.
I'll make the finding.
Second. And a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. With that, we'll go into closed session. Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council, sitting as the City Victorville, and the City Council sitting as the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. At this time, we'll do our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have the sheet that normally tells me who's given the invocation this evening. Do we have someone that has been contacted by City? Give the invocation? Okay, in that case, I'll ask Councilman Rothschild to go ahead and do that. And then our Pledge of Allegiance by our Chief of Police, Captain Cliff Reynolds.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this evening, and especially thank you for our community. Touch all of our minds and hearts this evening as we make decisions in your divine right and not our selfish ends.
Flag of the United States of America and public for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. We have always done or continue to do. We are saluting our soldiers who are fighting for our freedom in harm's way. And tonight we have a military banner presentation for Walter Hart. His mother Barbara and grandmother Elizabeth are here to accept the certificate. So I could have them come forward.
Hi, I'm Barbara Hammond. My son Walter Hart and I moved here 11 years ago. We came from Boulder, Colorado, which was God's gift to mankind, and we came here and described it as the armpit of the world. We have grown to love it, however, in the past 11 years. Walter graduated from Excelsior High School, and his first full-time job was out in Adelanto at Carco, where he learned to crash cars for a living, all the new models, brand new, off the showroom, destroyed them beautifully, and he was paid for it. And then he joined the Army about 3 years ago, and he's a door gunner on Black Hawk helicopters, and he gets off at 12-hour shifts and goes to his rack to sleep, and before he can even get to his tent with the dirt floor, no heater, another pilot will grab him and say, "You're coming up with me." He's a very good door gunner. I think all the years of Nintendo and Xbox have finally paid off. He's very good at what he does. They really like him. I just wanted you to know that Walter has one up on the rest of all of the platoon, and that is Afghanistan's climate is just like Victorville. So he gets up and throws open the tent flap and breathes in the sand and blowing sand and loves it. And they can't stand the heat or the cold or the snow, and they complain, and he thrives in the dry, arid environment. So he says he's very anxious to get back home to Victorville. He misses it terribly. I think my mom wants to say a few words.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the council and all of you that are here tonight for supporting the Banner program. It's very dear to my heart. I'm Elizabeth Hammond, Walter's grandmother, so you know anything that comes out of my mouth about him is biased. And I won't bore you, but he had a great time growing up in Victorville. And if any of you can remember back to your young teenage jobs, he probably had the same kind of things that you did. For some reason, he was always attached to cars. And he ended up either washing the boss's car or somebody at church that was sick. And his third base here in the United States was Fort Hood in Texas. And they assigned him to a door gunner in a Black Hawk. And a Black Hawk is kind of the middle size. A lot of you guys here probably know. It's larger than an Apache, but it's smaller than a Chinook. And his first physical job with the helicopter was to wash it. So we tease him unmercifully. He can't get away from washing vehicles. But if you can imagine climbing up onto a helicopter, it's kind of analogous to climbing the dome of the Capitol building in Washington. But he loves what he's doing. But he'd like to get back home, too. But I thank the council and all of you for supporting this program.
Well, thank you, and we thank you. Let's give him a round. That banner will fly on one of our light standards in the city of Victorville until he comes home. So thank you very much. Okay, we do have another presentation, but before we do that, I'll look to our city attorney for any reportable action out of closed session.
Thank you, Mayor McEachran. We do have a reportable action. It's pertaining to item 4 on the closed session agenda, which was litigation between Ross A. Guy and Son General Engineering Contractor versus C.A. Rasmussen, Inc., civil case number CIVVS 907013. The council, on a unanimous vote, agreed to settle the claim pertaining to that litigation filed by C.A. Rasmussen against the city for the settlement amount of $46,981.37, and it was a 5-0 vote.
All right.
Reportable action.
Thank you. At this time, we have a special presentation by Dr. Robert Gaines with the California Cadet Corps. Mr. Gaines, or Dr. Gaines?
Good evening, Town Council, members of the City of Victorville. Actually, this program is a program that covers the entire state of California, the California Cadet Corps program, And as a matter of fact, one of your esteemed members, Mr. Rudy Cabrielis, used to be a commandant. I worked with him at a number of schools and thank him for his time and dedication to the program. And the California Cadet Corps program is the oldest military program for youth in this nation. It's older than ROTC by only 5 years, but still older. The idea for ROTC came from the California Cadet Corps. A lot of people aren't aware of it. A lot of people, I've been hearing parents talk about the program, the few, unfortunately, that have come across it. And I say unfortunately because not enough people are even aware that this program exists. And this is an excellent program for our youth because as quiet as it's kept, the California Cadet Corps is not overly interested in recruiting anybody to go into the military. We're really more about creating good Americans. And the Cadet Corps objectives is to develop skills of leadership, to engender qualities of citizenship, to encourage patriotism, to foster academic excellence, to teach basic military knowledge, and to promote skills of health, wellness, and fitness for our youth. Something that we think is sorely needed in our community to give our youth some direction and some guidance in how to become a good, solid adult in this country. The goals of the program is for loyalty to self, others, and civic government institutions, education, the success of all cadets in academic endeavors, including staying in school and pursuing higher education, ambition, striving for excellence and lofty goals, duty, lifelong habits of responsible behavior, excellent attendance, and punctuality, enthusiasm, a zest for life's challenges, respect, something that's sorely missing in our society today, cooperation with school and public policies, regulations and laws, respect for the dignity of all persons, as well as an appreciation for the rich heritage of America and California. And then service to others, our state, our nation, and the world. Health, fitness and wellness, including the avoidance of gangs, illegal drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. Integrity, positive choices for cadets with regards to private and public behavior. Personal courage, say no to that which is wrong and stand up for what is right. The statistics on our program is about 86% of our cadets pursue a higher education, something a lot of other people aren't aware of, because we definitely emphasize the fact that our young people need to understand the value of an education, and that is their right and their duty to pursue that for themselves as well as their state, their city, and their country. The cadets attend school at a rate of 3.8% higher than non-cadets. We have significantly less disciplinary infractions than non-cadets because they learn how to respect and communicate without arguing, fussing, and fighting, something definitely that we need to do in our society today. We look at somebody, and if we disagree, we think the solution is to punch them in the mouth. And we need to get away from that. We don't need to hit anybody. All we need to do is use our intelligence, because that's why we're supposed to be above the animals that reside on this planet with us. We call ourselves the intelligent factor. So we outperform by 8 percentile points their non-cadet counterparts on state fitness tests. So we do include physical fitness and all of those things that are usually covered in gym in our program, as well as our emphasis on education, good grades, good character, honesty, and integrity, some of the values that get overlooked in the discussion of education. So we bring those values back to our youth, back to our society, and we emphasize those for our children and hope that they learn it. But our program has been approved down to start in elementary school all the way to high school. And if we can get them young enough, we can get them before they become a problem and try to ensure that they never do become one. And they learn how to solve their own problems without becoming a sociological problem for us. So I thank you for your time. And I would like to leave you with a copy of a PowerPoint presentation that I just completed. And what this is going to be is a presentation that I will be starting for the state. The California Cadet Corps, which is overseen by the California National Guard, we have decided that we need to get this program back in our schools, so this PowerPoint presentation will start being made to all school districts that no longer have the program within their confines, so that we can make them aware of it and get our education system back on track with turning out good Americans and good Californians. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Captain Gaines, I've spoken to you a number of times over the years on your ceremonies, but I have to say that I'm going to echo what you've just gone through the statistics. Those aren't just statistics. I saw 33 years of cadets coming through my math class at the high school. The personal discipline in that group of young women and men was incredible. I could always teach them. That personal discipline built into them through your organization had them sitting there giving me my undivided attention. And whenever those few times ever came off where I had to go beyond that, I went to our local commandant, and things were straightened out. I mean, the statistics speak for themselves. When you got 80% are going on to higher education, and all of the students participating through that program are participating at a much higher level, grade point level, it speaks for itself. But I wish every school in this state would have their core active on their campuses, not just some, but everyone. Thank you, sir.
And that is our goal, to get this program active in all our schools. Again. And, and by the way, for those that are interested, only about 3% of our cadets ever go in the military. So, like we said, we're really about producing good citizens, not recruiting for any branch of the military. And we can't say that out of that 3%, they're scattered all across all the branches of the military. They don't go for just the Army, which is the uniform the commandants wear. So we don't advocate for any particular branch. If they want to go in, we support them. If they don't, we support that too. Thank you for your time.
Captain Gaines, I would like to thank you for the presentation, but I would also like to recognize Felix Diaz, Commandant of Cadets, who's been, he spent probably most of his years after retirement from the education system in the Cadet Corps. And as a matter of fact, Felix, will you please stand up?
Yes, he was a cadet.
He was a cadet, and he was a cadet in 1950, and so was I, and so was Terry Caldwell, different schools. But I'm very proud of that service, and above all, it taught me patriotism and the discipline that's necessary to succeed in life.
Well, so those are the reasons why it attracted me to the program, and that's why I volunteer as a commandant.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, we'll now go into public comment, and I've got several cards here. Terry Westergren, I have you down for every single agenda, so have you come up and speak to the council.
I'm Terry Westergren from Victorville. I have a couple of specific agenda items I want to address when they come up. But my general comments, I only need to say them once. But on the authorities, the Library Committee, the Rail Authority, the Water District, where all of the City Council sit as board members of each of those organizations, I'm interested, curiosity, if you get paid for each of those meetings. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. I do believe we have posted what City Council members get paid on our website, but we can specifically respond to that outside this meeting. But I can tell you, no, we don't get paid individually for or separately for each meeting. Raymond Herrera.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Raymond Herrera. We the People, California's Crusader. I am the president and founder. I'm here to speak to you tonight about the Spanish billboard sign on the I-15 corridor that advertises for a business in Spanish in the city of Victorville. First, I'd like to announce that our efforts have been rewarded. The Spanish billboard sign is down as of today. The reason that I brought this issue forward is because English is the official language and the common language of we the people. It has been since 1620. We are known as Anglo-America. Our morals, our common decencies are derivatives of the Anglo society that landed here, the Anglo-Protestants that landed here. We, as American people, it is incumbent upon each and every one of you to make sure that the American creed that landed here in 1620 is never violated, not in America and not in your city. English being a major component of the American creed, the core values of this great country. You know, it is incumbent upon us to protect the American creed and the American way of life. And the reason that I am pointing out Adriana's insurance company and their Spanish billboard sign is because they advertise to illegal aliens to come and buy SR-22 insurance policies. An illegal alien is not a licensed driver in the state of California, therefore should not be afforded insurance. Adriana Insurance Company will tell you that you don't need a license to drive. I tell you, you need a license to drive in the city of Victorville and throughout the state of California and throughout America. They are actually circumventing the rule of law. Adriana Insurance in Spanish does a commercial that talks to the illegal aliens about having their cars impounded when they're pulled over for a fix-it citation or a ticket or whatever. Adriana affords illegal aliens protection on American soil in your city. Drivers that cannot read or comprehend English are driving next to your family, next to your wife, next to your daughter. They can't read the road signs, and nor do they know the California vehicle codes. It is for this reason that the common language, English language, must be upheld so that we all have a sense of community, a level that we can communicate, and there is no reason for any American to want a Spanish billboard sign other than the desecration of our way of life. I am an American of Mexican descent. I speak Spanish. I don't read Spanish, but any time that I see a violation of the American creed, be it Spanish, German, Korean, billboard signs, I take the same stance. I will not witness the desecration of my language, my culture, of my country. And it's incumbent upon the City Council to do something about businesses that operate under this guise. And Rudy, you're going to find out that you shouldn't have said what you said, because the business that you stood up for is corrupt. And for you to stand up for a corrupt business just because of the color of your skin is racist. You should be voted out. Thank you, and God bless.
Robin Vidston? Forgive me, you know you've been here before.
You said it right.
I did. Okay, good.
Yes, I'm Robin Vidston. I'm too with Mr. Herrera's organization. And we were very pleased to learn that the Spanish language billboard appears to be gone on the I-15 corridor. But we investigated the company as we were looking into the Spanish language billboard. And I would just like to report the Better Business Bureau has rated Adriana's Insurance with an F due to their fraudulent practices and other criminal activities. You can go on the website yourself and see what Better Business Bureau has to say about Adriana's Insurance. They advertise in Spanish. Their ads blatantly claim you do not need a driver's license in order to obtain their insurance. This is a coupon from their website. It's in Spanish. This coupon tells drivers you can get their insurance without a license, with a matricular card. It even says you can get their auto insurance with any ID you choose. Now, I called your Victorville Adriana's Insurance office last week to complain about the Spanish language billboard. I spoke to a manager. He told me this is Mexico. He told me Victorville is Mexico. And when I told him that we're very concerned about them granting auto insurance to individuals Spanish-speaking in our country illegally without a license, this manager told me you don't need a license to drive. So you've got Adriana's Insurance manager so bold as they offer their insurance to people in our country illegally, Spanish-speaking primarily. Now they're telling American citizens, myself, that you don't need a license to drive. In the newspaper article, the Daily Press, we were very disappointed that Mayor Pro Tem Rudy Cabriolas stood up for this organization. We're finding out they're fraudulent. We thought that having that billboard up, even for the time period it was there, was dangerous. The Cajon Pass is one of our most treacherous roadways in this state. And what happened when you got to the crest of it, there was Adriana's Insurance billboard in Spanish beckoning people without licenses to buy their auto policies. I'm going to say I thought it was scandalous, Mayor Pro Tem, that you made these comments about this fraudulent company. I was very disappointed to read your comments. Now, people can go on the internet and you can read all about the fraud Adriana's Insurance is involved in.
You have 10 seconds.
Pardon me?
10 seconds.
Former employees and former clients, both in Spanish and English, claim that what they do is they abuse illegal aliens. Once they take out their policy, something happens, they don't honor it. They claim people that close their accounts still have money taken out of them. These are claims on the internet, like I said, both in Spanish and English. It's a company that needs to be investigated. We were very pleased the sign's down, but we would ask this body politic. I know Rudy Cabriolas supports Adriana's Insurance, but I would ask the other 4 of you to please investigate this company. They're telling people in your city, they told me, you don't need a driver's license to drive. Thank you.
Mayor, you know, I've sat here for 13 years, and I never responded to public comment because it's you know, it doesn't do any good because you get a dialogue back and forth, and this is exactly what these folks want. They want to engage you. But I can tell you, I support small businesses doing their businesses in any manner they can to make a profit, because that's what businesses do. And as a government, you know, businesses have enough regulations on them without local government putting on more regulations and stifling your ability to do your business. And that's what I said. I support the First Amendment, which gives you the right and the freedom of speech. And I support that with all my heart and my mind. That's the reason I served this country for 24.5 years in the military, because every day I knew that somebody had to defend the country, and I stood up for my country. So to have someone come and try to throw doubt into my loyalty to this country or my patriotism is ludicrous. And that's all I have to, you know, respond to you, because otherwise you're not even worth my time. Thank you.
Bill Snedeker.
Many of the original Tea Party members were loyal to England and loved their homeland, but too much taxation finally pushed them towards revolution. Today's Tea Party is a grassroots revolt across America against too much government intervention. Once again, the liberties afforded us by the Constitution have become a battleground of the day. I am a strong believer in the Constitution and personal responsibility. I've attended Tea Party rallies. Unfortunately, I've observed some Tea Party members developing a mob mentality and turning this movement into a Salem witch hunt. I quote from National Geographic, Salem Witch Hunt. A small girl fell sick in 1692. Her fits, convulsions, contortions, and outbursts of gibberish baffled everyone. Other girls soon manifested the same symptoms. The doctor could suggest but one cause, witchcraft. That grim diagnosis launched a Puritan Inquisition that took 25 lives, filled prisons with innocent people, and frayed the soul of a Massachusetts community called Salem. Finding witches became a crusade, not only for Salem, but all of Massachusetts. Before long, the crusade turned into a convulsion, and the witch hunters ultimately proved far more deadly than their prey. End quote. Almost all the residents of Victorville were caught up in speculation and were guilty of greed during the city's prosperous years. Where were the outcry from members of the Tea Party movement during those speculative years? My family moved into the high desert in 1973. I've been a small self-employed businessman in the city since 1983. I've had to make payroll and pay city taxes. I'm adamantly opposed to the overspending of the city, as Mr. McCackern can attest to. I have followed the career of Jim Cox over the years through the daily press. I have never met this man personally until after the attacks that were thrown his way at City Council meeting held on January 18th. The accusations made at the meeting did not match the judgment I had made from reading about him in the papers. As I spoke to him after the meeting about the issues I had in question, I found him to be extremely knowledgeable about each side of the issues. Upon future inquiries, I discovered an individual with a deep love for the city of Victorville, an individual who is in his 70s and does not need the money. Retirement would have treated him kinder. I have been in his office this past week to reinforce my conviction of his decency. I have sat on a committee with Doug Robertson, the Victorville City Chamber of Commerce Legislation Action Committee group, for several years. I have discussed with him the politics behind school boards as he ran for a seat. These are men of integrity and high character. When we attack their good names, we attack their wives, their children, and grandchildren. Should that performance be accounted for? Absolutely. But when we indulge in name-calling and defaming remarks, we engage ourselves in outright slander. And allowing others to do so, we become no better than those who sat in the halls and the courts of the Salem witch hunts. I'm not here to defend Mr. Cox or Robertson because they are friends, because personally I don't know these men. But I do know who they are, and I have sat with them in committee. These are good, decent men. I trust my instincts. I would be willing to place all of my personal wealth into the hands of these individuals on a handshake. Could we make that same statement about our elected officials? Mr. Cox and Mr. Robertson take their marching orders from the City Council. I remind you, Mr. Cox was working for Apple Valley from 2000 to 2008. The City of Victorville asked for his help after they fell deeply into debt. Mr. Cox strongly opposed many decisions the city made after his departure in 2000. Mr. Cox is an excellent accountant and balances spreadsheets. But far more important, if an individual's moral compass doesn't balance, it is far worse than any balance sheet. He has also had to lay off over 200 employees, city employees, during the past 2 years, many his co-workers and old-time friends. Mr. Robertson works for the city manager and is often left out of this loop under Mr. John Roberts' reign. I consider myself an individual of integrity. God has blessed me with wisdom, and over the years I think I've become a good judge of character. Rather than accusations, I ask for any proof that Mr. Cox or Doug Robertson are not men of the highest character and the highest integrity. The foundation for civility is trust, and trust must be the integral facet of civility in moments of disagreement. The definition of civility: civilized conduct, especially courtesy, politeness, a polite act or expression. We may strongly disagree, we may petition for change, but civility must rule the day, or a group larger than the Tea Party will rise up and recall any individual who fails to maintain this integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been a little liberal. I need to ask everyone to please limit their comments to 3 minutes. William Fromage, hopefully I spelled that or pronounced that correctly.
Hello, Victorville Mayor, Council members. My name is William Fromage. I live in Apple Valley. I've been in the high desert for 20 years. I attended over 100 council meetings in Apple Valley in 5 years to get the BMX bicycle freestyle riders access to the skateboard-only part. Coming up in April 2011, Apple Valley will have its re-grand opening for our multi-use bike skateboard park. As some of you may know, Adelanto opened its multi-use bike skateboard park in March 2010 at a cost of about $100,000. Phelan and Lucerne also have these parks for the youth. In my opinion, and many others, Victorville is the heart of the high desert and the Victor Valley, but it has yet to step forward into the 21st century for the Victorville youth who would love a bike skateboard park of their own. It breaks my heart to see the local Victorville youth making do with the old dilapidated parking lots along 7th Street by the Winchell's Donuts, while just up the road there's a multi-million-dollar country club. I'll end with this. Victor Valley leaders. We need bike skateboard parks for our youth. We have enough country clubs. Thanks.
Thank you. Joseph Perkins.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Joseph Perkins. I'm with the Life Community Development Organization, and we're here to talk to you about the program that we're offering for the Victor Valley area. We provide homeless shelters for women in the Victor Valley area. We have 5 shelters located in Victorville and also in the city of Adelanto. We provide shelters for homeless women veterans and for homeless men veterans also. We also provide for the TAPE population also in the Victorville area. And we're responding to the grant request to ask for assistance and grants for the block grants to assist with our outreach program for our veterans that are transitioning out of our program, as well as our TAPE population that is transitioning out of our program also. We're going to be using these funds to assist with those students that need to transition into different programs, as well as working with students that may need to contact their parents or additional programs for their transitional program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danielle Ward.
Good evening, Council. I am here to address a few alarming concerns I have about the Victor Valley Mall and our police department. I have worked in the mall for 3.5 years, and all I have witnessed are a growing number in truants, drug dealings, and even public drug use. These kids and homeless adults are running the show, while security continues to be told they have less and less authority for handling these everyday situations. I can't tell you how many fights, riots, drug deals, public displays of highly inappropriate affection, stealing, and vandalism I have witnessed over and over again. One evening, I was barricaded by a group of teenagers while at a stop sign in my car in the parking lot of the mall. One teenager in particular stared me down for quite some time and then decided to vandalize my car. I rolled down my window and told him to please never touch my car again, and then he proceeded to threaten me. I called the cops as I had had enough of being harassed by these troublemakers that continued to multiply at the mall. I explained the situation to the officer and all of the other serious problems that are going on at the mall. His response was, "I don't doubt these things are going on, but I don't want to do anything about it. Next time a kid barricades your car, just go ahead and run into him." I was shocked. I asked if he was joking twice, and he said, "No, I am not joking." These are types of people that are representing the safety and security of our city. Not only should we concentrate on hiring more officers, but our biggest concern should be hiring competent, motivated, and compassionate officers. Our police department is as strong as its weakest and laziest link. I will not stand for officers whose idea for a solution is for me to run over a human being while allowing our youth to smoke marijuana outside of the mall. This needs to be stopped, and I will not consider raising a family in the city if these kind of people represent safety. I'm not going to generalize every cop and every officer into the, incompetent and uncompassionate category, as I have met many officers that I respect and that do care, but there are too many that don't. I work at Starbucks. They come in for their coffee in the morning and at night, and I've heard some very troubling thoughts from them about how they feel about their shifts, and this has to be dealt with, especially with the mall. I had to transfer out. It was getting really, really bad. It was just too much, and to hear an officer say that I don't feel like doing anything about it, I don't care, hit a human being with my car, that's too much. And I feel like if we are going to hire more officers, we need to really concentrate on hiring competent officers, ones that are compassionate about the safety of our city, and reevaluate the ones that we have now. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Dorothy Miller.
My
name is Dorothy Miller, and I believe you all know me pretty well. I was here at the last meeting, and I seen some things that really bothered me. And one of them is the workplace, hostage workplace. Now, why we cannot get along with everybody? We need to work together. We got micromanagement from one of the council members. We don't need that. We need everybody to work together for all the people in this city, not just for one. In my opinion, I think there's been some stuff that's come out from closed session that's been out in the paper before we even knew anything about it. And I would really like to know if this is happening. It needs to stop. I believe you signed papers in the back room stating this is not going to happen. But from what I see and from what I've been here all the time, so I know what's going on. And the people of this city don't need that. We need, now the airport, we've got a thing going on now. You know, we're going to have another lawsuit. I mean, we're going to take one plane from one place and move them somewhere else, and it's going to be another lawsuit, I guarantee you. And we don't need it. We need things worked out properly before we get into that situation, because it's going to happen, I'm telling you now. So anyway, be aware of what's going on, and all of you has got to work together. And we have that problem with the Victor Valley Water Waste Treatment Plant, VWRA. We have a problem there. I mean, we're paying for a building up there in Hesperia, and we have offices down at the plant. Why don't we stay there where it don't cost the taxpayers money to run out there? There's a van there. They take that down there. I mean, wait a minute. We're wasting money. And I think the people are getting tired of it. I know I am. I'm very tired of some of the stuff that's going on. And I'm here and I see exactly what's going on, and you know it. Thank you.
Nancy Kesey.
Good evening, Council. I come bearing gifts. Kind of a surprise, maybe. I've brought each of you a pocket copy of the Constitution of the United States, and if you already have one or any copy of the Constitution, I'd appreciate you passing it on to someone else that may not. They're extremely convenient. I've also brought you a copy of a book excuse me, that I have taught 2 classes using. It's called A Miracle That Changed the World, the 5,000-Year Leap. And I would like to just read the dedication from this that I think is quite uplifting. Dedicated to that generation of resolute Americans whom we call the Founding Fathers. They created the first free people to survive as a nation in modern times. They wrote a new kind of constitution, which is now the oldest in existence. They built a new kind of commonwealth designed as a model for the whole human race. They believed it was thoroughly possible to create a new kind of civilization, giving freedom, equality, and justice to all. Their first design for a free people nation was to encompass all North America, accommodating, as John Adams said, 200 to 300 million free men. They created a new cultural climate. They gave wind to the human spirit. They encouraged exploration to reveal the scientific secrets of the universe. They built a free enterprise culture to encourage industry and prosperity. They gave humanity the needed ingredients for a gigantic 5,000-year leap. We have grown since the Founding Fathers struggled for decades after our independence to come up with a document And I just would like each of you to have this. This book is written by Dr. Cleon Skousen, and you can find out about him if you're not already aware of him. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. David Mueller.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Dave Mueller. I'm with HighDesertPolitics.org. I'd like to start by saying that on January 18th, 2011, the Council met in closed session. I was the only citizen present at the time when you met. It was reported out that there was two emergency items added to the agenda, which Council does regularly, all the time. And one of them covered the EB-5 program. On February 1st, I reminded this Council that under Government Code Section 54959, you must disclose anything that happens in closed session, and if the legislative body does not do that, it is punishable by misdemeanors being filed if found guilty of willfully withholding information from the public. Over the weekend, the Daily Press revealed that a refund had been approved of an EB-5 loan for $500,000. Obviously, that couldn't have been done between the 18th and tonight's closed session meeting because there hadn't been any meetings. And it was reported there was no reportable action at the 18th. I was the only one present. Monday morning, I was reviewing the agenda for tonight, and a letter from Mr. Amir Jacker, who is the Public Works employee for the City of Victorville. That letter indicated that an investor, Mr. Dong, had agreed to a $500,000 refund on January 11th, 2011. That was 7 days before your closed session meeting. What litigation would be filed if he had agreed 7 days prior to a settlement? At noon on the same day, this Monday, I went back to the agenda, and that letter was removed. In its place was this addendum that you put out before your closed session this evening, and it's a modified contract of the SCLAA RCVD program. All the numbers have been changed. The amounts went from $550,000, the original contract amount, down to $500,000. The date that this is signed is January 18th. But you said no reportable action had taken place. In Mr. Jocker's letter, which was removed from the Internet, from the agenda packet, is not even in this agenda packet. I have a copy of it, by the way. It says that the attorney, there were other considerations that the city attorney was required to clear up. And my question is why was that removed from this agenda packet? What was so secret about Mr. Jocker's letter that somebody decided to remove it? Does it have to do with Mr. Buck Johns getting as the general partner with the city of Victorville in the VRC program? He gets $50,000 as expenses for each loan that's let. Did you have to ask Mr. Johns for permission to refund Mr. Dong's $500,000? Is that what was secret, so super secret? You know, I do not trust this council. I've already filed a complaint with the district attorney's office. You people are not playing straight with the public. You're not being honest with the public. The date of this change to the document was January 18th. But when you left closed session, you reported there is no reportable action. And there was reportable action, or you couldn't have signed this. Thank you very much.
Felix Diaz.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You can see that my name is Felix Diaz, lifetime member. I was born in Hesperia. My family came from Mexico and Arizona in 1925, so I've lived here all of my life. You notice I'm not wearing my uniform anymore, and probably will never wear it again. Very sad situation for me, very hurtful situation, due to the fact that after I lost the election, the Victorville Victor Valley High School Board of Directors did some very dirty stuff to me and my wife that I don't want to discuss. But nevertheless, what Mr. Gaines mentioned is very true. The California Cadet Corps has been the oldest organization in the state and the nation. And my brothers before me were all cadets at Victor Valley High School. I was a cadet from 1949 to 1953, and I served the Cadet Corps the last 15 years, going on 16. And like I said, it's very hurtful that I will not be wearing the uniform again. But anyway, there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention tonight. And I want to tell you, City Council people, you're doing a great job. Don't let these other people come in here and raise Cain with you. You're doing a good job, and I'm very proud to say that I once was a member of this council from 1992 to 1996. And I was very proud to serve the city of Victorville in that capacity. And I resent for people from the surrounding areas and even from out of town, from other parts of the Southern California to come in here and berate you when they don't even pay property taxes for the city of Victorville. To me, as far as I'm concerned, they don't have a right. They don't have a right to do that. Like my teachers used to tell me at the old Evadale school, segregated school across the tracks, clean your own backyard before you try to clean anybody else's. Clean your own backyard before you try to clean anybody else's. And the thing I want to say to Mr. Herrera, he's been in existence now, raising the same old song and dance, he and Ms. Vinstead. If they're so much against, they are only targeting the Hispanic. Ms. Vinstead is a Scandinavian. Mr. Herrera is Hispanic. Why don't they go after, if they're really sincere, why don't they go to Chinatown? Why don't they go to Little Korea? Why don't they go to Little Saigon in Orange County? Have they ever heard of Spanish Harlem in New York? Where everything is in that language. Yet they come in here and start raising Cain about an insurance company. And raise Cain with my friend Rudy Cabriales. What you said, Rudy, is right on. And I want to say to them, if they don't like Hispanics so much, why don't they change their names? Why don't Mr. Herrera change his name to a real all-American name and change his name to Henderson, Anderson, Williams, Smith? And Ms. Vinstead can do the same thing. I don't want to hear from you, man.
Mr. Diaz, your time is up.
Thank you.
Clarissa Kimbrough?
Good evening, Council. I attend a local community college around here, Victor Valley College, and I just have a simple question as to why close to $1 million was spent on the beautification of the school instead of it being put towards courses in the classes, because recently the winter session was not offered. However, like I said, close to $1 million was spent on flowers and plants and trees and rocks that I do not see how it is bettering my education. As Mr. Dr. Robert Gaines said, we need to better our education. I do not see how those beautification processes are helping us. Thank you.
On that issue, I would direct you to the College Board of Trustees. That is not an issue that this council made a decision on or spent the money on. That was the College Board of Trustees. So I encourage you to go and share your comments with them as well. All right, I have no other public comment cards. I have several cards for agenda item number 23. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council under public comment? All right, seeing no one else, we'll go into our agenda items. The first agenda is the Library Board of Trustees, but before we get to that, if I could have our city clerk talk about the process of voting and how we're going to handle that.
Yes, just for the public's information, in the future when the council members make a motion and then a second on any of the items, I will, just for the record, just to make it clear, I will be announcing who made the motion and who seconded the motion, just to make the record clear.
Yeah, because we're on electronic up here, so you all don't necessarily see who makes the motion or second. So that we have that on the record, we're going to do that. All right, Library Board of Trustees, are there any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
All right, that meeting is adjourned. Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
All right, that agenda is adjourned. Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
All right, we have agenda item number 3, a request to rescind its December 14, 2010 action approving a lease agreement for the same facility with Federal Express Corporation, and 2, approve the standard form lease agreement with Leading Edge Aviation Services, subject to the conditions set forth in staff report. Is my understanding from staff that you wish to have a continuation on this? Is there a date certain in the future that we're looking? Okay. With that item will be continued. Moving on to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency agenda. Are there any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
We have consent calendar.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild. Councilmember Cabrialis, may I get a vote from you? Thank you.
All right, under written communications, agenda item number 5, request to 1, approve the memorandum of understanding relating to REO acquisitions, and 2, authorize the Director of Economic Development Department to execute said agreement to review REO inventory available through the National Community Stabilization Trust.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm struggling with this item. It's my understanding that this memorandum is to purchase vacant homes, repossessed homes. And this memorandum basically gives the City of Victorville carte blanche before the private investor, so that the City of Victorville doesn't have to compete with the private sector, so that they rehab the home so that it's not a blight to the community, and then sell the home at an affordable rate or price to a low-income family. And my concern is, I feel that if we're competing with the private sector, this is keeping our property values down. And Keith, is my understanding correct?
It's correct in the sense that what this item does is it gives the city and public agencies the first look at REO foreclosed homes before they become available to the public markets. And this is being done largely in support of the congressional effort to try to rid a lot of the blighting conditions that have been imposed resulting from the financial crisis. Effectively, this enables the use of our NSP dollars to acquire homes, and in our case, in Victorville, we acquire homes, rehab them, and resell them on the open market. Largely, one of the fundamental reasons why this program was put in place and made available to public agencies such as ours had more to do with the fact that when the NSP monies were made available to communities like ours, the environment in the REO market where a lot of these homes were being acquired for speculative purposes caused an unfairness to public agencies striving to maintain affordability to affordable households, to where it was actually competing in driving up the prices, not much different than a lot of the problem that caused the financial crisis in the first place. So it helps us eliminate being subjected to or subjecting ourselves to participated in that speculative market, and allows us to get a first look, and if we so choose,
the ability to pull homes off a list that are in our targeted areas, and our targeted areas are areas that have been most highly concentrated with foreclosed homes. Overall, the goal is to try to eliminate the blight that is caused by foreclosures in highly concentrated areas.
Would it be a correct statement to say that this program can keep our property values down?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it enables us to acquire properties at prices that are very compatible with the marketplace, but it does also enable us to preserve market prices so that affordability can be achieved as opposed to over speculating a market.
What percentage do we have of these homes in Victorville?
Oh, it's very small. I couldn't speak. Tamara, do you know? Significantly less than 1%, I believe, is what she's saying.
Keith, does this promote ownership as opposed to homes occupied by tenants, renters?
That is correct. Ours is for ownership opportunities, so we're actually trying to identify households that are going to live in them, that are going to preserve the improvements that we make to these homes, such as keeping the grasses green, or in the case of where we're not putting in grass, at least keeping the front yards maintained, the lights turned on, at least preserving the value that we put back in these homes. The bigger challenge is, of course, in highly concentrated tract areas when you have a multitude of foreclosures in one particular area. When you've got a foreclosure, the family leaves, and of course you see the boards go up, you see the grass go dry, you see just the physical blight to where the economic blight associated with that home not being occupied, it has a spin-off effect or a spillover effect to a lot of the surrounding community. So this is really intended to try to be reactionary and get people in these homes and enjoying the housing opportunities.
I have a question too. What changing around, you're looking at the positive side of it. What about the neighbor from hell that moves into the program? How do we police it in terms of I'm interested in the people whose homes they're living in the neighborhoods. They have an investment, a big investment of their life there, and then somebody comes in and abuses the program, the low and moderate income programs. The Section 8 certainly comes to mind. It's a federal program, but what I'm saying is, how do we change the other part of that equation? How do we mitigate a problem when we have it after they're already established in a home?
Well, when we, for all of our affordable housing programs, when we assist buyers buy homes or even rehab homes, we do record conditions, covenants, and restrictions, and we actually use a lot of our grant money to work with your development department using their code enforcement to help police issues when we do have issues. So we do have some police power as it relates to the use of code enforcement and enforcing our CC&Rs.
How quickly can you extricate somebody? In 30 days, 60 days? Give me a number. I'm
not the one to answer that. Maybe Bill? Bill's around. I wish I could answer that. I don't know the answer.
I have a bit of a problem, too, with us participating in the program. And I do believe that this is affecting the market, the natural marketplace of the homes. And with respect to the abuse, I read in that document that there's nothing stopping you buying blocks of homes. Not us, but anybody in this program. Just because we get at the front end of the line doesn't mean it's going to mitigate some investor coming in and buying up a whole block of homes and becoming a renter. Now, I know we have a renting ordinance. I helped craft it. But when you get that individual in that home under a program, it seems to me it's extra special hard to get them out again when clearly they're in violation and abusing the rights of the neighbor. And so that's where I have a problem with the program. I know I voted for it before, and we're kind of renewing this, but I have concerns about continuing this support in this program.
Keith, I have a question. This program promotes ownership.
That is correct.
As opposed to, and I understand some of these investors or speculators that come in and buy, blocks of homes or, several homes, and then they just rent them out. And that's a bigger danger because some of these rentals can become Section 8, and a lot of them do.
That's correct. I mean, really what this is intended for is public agencies, and public agencies for a reason, because there is a public purpose. We do have a public responsibility as a redevelopment agency to make affordable housing available. We do it as strategic as we can. We try to do it on a scattered site basis. But one of the challenges we have had is having to mix ourselves within that investor speculator market, and it makes it much more difficult for us to achieve that goal of trying to create affordability. Not to say we can't go out and do that, because we have done that, but I'll give you probably a reasonable example of what we experience. Is we can go in and compete with the investor market, and mind you, it's a very small percentage of homes that we're buying compared to the natural marketplace. But competing out there with the public market, we are forced to pay prices that might be more priced towards an investor market where they're trying to rent to a different audience. We buy that house, let's say we're successful and we close the escrow. Effectively, to resell it and slap on the affordability restrictions that we're required to do, we effectively, on the public side of the ledger, very regularly end up taking a much bigger loss. And that's what the public's complaint largely has been, or at least the municipality's complaint largely is that to go out there and compete with the investor markets, even though we're representing a very small share, it's not the most efficient use of the public fund, because effectively we're having to take the loss on the resale, unless we wanted to hold on to the assets, and that's not really our goal, is to hold on to these homes very long term. Our goal is to acquire them, fix them up, resell them as quick as possible.
Rudy, you make a good point regarding ownership versus renting. But from what I understand is that this program actually lends the people the money for the down payment. Is that correct?
We use a different program. This is just a memorandum of understanding, availing that first right program to us. But the way we manage the acquisitions, there's a number of different funding sources we use, but we'll use NSP grant money to do the primary acquisition. On the back end, when we have the buyer, we do have other funds where we can use to help bridge the down payment.
Correct. So the people that were getting into these homes are not maybe such as you and I that had to work really hard to get these down payments in order to buy these homes. So unfortunately, we're left to deal with like Mike said, difficult neighbors and maybe undesirable people that are already in this home, and it's not just a matter of an eviction. Now it's a matter of they live there. So it's even, like Mike said, a more difficult thing to get rid of them.
I would just add that it's more difficult when you don't have the controls in place, when you don't have the CC&Rs or the regulatory documents in place. One of the things that that I think is meaningful to say is, as we record these in the case of the mortgage assistance program, if there's violations, there's a threat that they have to repay that money back. So there's meaningful clawbacks in the event where you do have those problem tenants. Now, flip the coin for 2 seconds to where it's just a standard market arm's length transaction. You don't necessarily have that same ability. It is much more difficult, as Councilmember Rothschild says, when you don't have the clawbacks or the teeth in place.
Okay, well, the item is before the council, so it's at the discretion.
Move approval.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabriolas, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
Okay, agenda item number 6 is a request to, 1, approve the proposed owner-occupied rehabilitation OOR program revisions, and to authorize the Director of Economic Development Department to implement said changes effective immediately to expand the number of households to be assisted.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabriolas, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
We will move into the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority agenda. Are there any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
All right, that meeting is adjourned. Victorville Water District agenda. Any revisions to the agenda?
No revisions.
All right, item number 3 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the introduction of ordinance number VWD-004, and the request of staff continue this item to the March 1st, 2011 meeting. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council at this time, understanding that we are going to look to continue this until March 1st. Anyone wishing to address the city council? Thank you for letting me know. I meant to tell you that earlier. Need to know which items you want to talk on.
I'll wait till March
Okay.
1st. The only question or comment I have regarding this is the fact that it's something that I'm shocked hasn't been done already. And now they're asking for an extension. I mean, how long has it been since Baldy Mesa and Mojave Water Agency came together under Victorville City? And that was my only comment. I'm really shocked that this is even an issue right now, because when you're ready to take something over, I would think you'd have somebody already looking at both operations, instructions, and policies and procedures, and be combining them to sit in with the city before you even got started. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address us on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, then we will go ahead and continue this item to our March 1st, 2011 meeting. Next item is our consent calendar.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rothschild, second by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrialis.
Moving on to agenda item number 5, this is request to approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $600,000 for the Mojave Water Agency for water deliveries for the High Desert Power Project for fiscal year 2010-2011.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
I have some questions on this item.
Okay.
Help me to understand why we're buying water for the High Desert Power Plant. Why can't they just get it directly from MWA?
The Mojave Water Agency is a signatory to the State Water Project, and this is made available through the individuals that, such as the city and the water districts, and MWA cannot deal directly with those individuals. Those individuals who want to buy aqueduct water actually must deal with either a water district or a city or a local entity, and then in turn the local entity deals with the MWA. When this was first negotiated some 10 years ago, it was actually the request of the city that MWA, since they are signatory to the aqueduct water coming through, that they make the agreement and that it be sold direct, and we were informed that they couldn't do that. So this is a pass-through, as you indicate, that the water purchased $600,000, the amount of reimbursed is $631,000, and there's a net revenue to the water district to cover administration overhead and processing the water. But we are told, and it's a good question, that they cannot deal directly with MWA. They have to deal with a water purveyor or a governmental entity.
Okay. Now, why are we using groundwater instead of wastewater from the Dr. Pepper plant that we paid $67 million for?
Why aren't we using groundwater?
Yeah, why are we using groundwater instead of from the wastewater plant that we built that cost $67 million?
When the High Desert Power Partner originally came to the city of Victorville back in, I believe, 1999, and made a request to proceed with a permit on that, the city council took an official position that they could not use the groundwater, and that's why they entered into an agreement with MWA so that they would not use groundwater. Part of the condition that was negotiated at that time with the city and the Victorville Water District was that they could not use groundwater, and in addition, they had to treat the water that they took out of the aqueduct, treat additional water, and actually pump it into the ground. And they were required to put into the ground, I believe, 9,000 acre-feet, so that if the aqueduct went down, they would merely take the water back, but they would have to pay the water district the water they put in the ground, and it would be an extremely rare instance where they would use groundwater because no one wanted to deplete the groundwater for cooling purposes.
Okay, so the MWA water, what is that water?
The MWA is, they receive an allocation as a joint signatory to the aqueduct water that they are entitled to buy. Right now, I believe it's 74,800 acre-feet of water annually, although the allocation has been substantially less. Annually, there is a determination made by the state of California on what the deliveries can be, but because they can get the deliveries, it's not free. MWA must buy the water or they don't get it. It simply passes us by.
And the wastewater treatment plant, the power project can't use that water?
The agreement that staff has been working on for some time is to use cooling water from the wastewater plant. The City of Victorville has an agreement with the Victor Valley Wastewater Authority to use reclaimed water, and it's a combination of that reclaimed water from the plant and a combination of the reclaimed water from the industrial wastewater plant at George Air Force Base that caused the city to enter into an agreement to provide that water for water on the golf course, reclaimed water rather than groundwater, and also then for Power Plant 1. Power Plant 1 needed to have an uninterruptible source of water. The aqueduct is considered interruptible, which means if the aqueduct goes down for maintenance over a prolonged period of time, they would have to seek water from some other source. In order for the Power Plant 1 to be able to generate electricity under their contracts and to ensure that it was sold to the state, which had the original contract, they had to assure that that plant could have water for cooling available at all times so the plant could operate. As a result, they entered into an agreement with the City of Victorville for the City of Victorville to provide reclaimed water from the sewer plants rather than using aqueduct water or using groundwater.
Okay, so the Dr. Pepper wastewater treatment plant, yes or no, can they give them water?
They will give them water, not direct at the present time. The intent is that once they process enough water to give it direct, at the present time the water will be mixed with the recycled water from BVWA plant and the Dr. Pepper plant. The water will be mixed.
And when will that be?
Now I'm going to have to ask Amr to answer that.
Mayor and council members, we are working with our engineering department to get that water be available for delivery to the high reserve power plant. We are also working with BVWRA. I've received an email from Mr. Logan last week that suggested that their pumps that they have are not able to pump to the pressure that we need to deliver the water. We're working with them to resolve that issue, and there's minor issues that we need to work on. We are able to serve them water once those issues are resolved. This agreement in here provides us the time in between where we have to serve them water and where the initial funding that was set aside for this purpose runs out. This allows us to continue buying water from MWA and then sell it in turn to HTPP. To answer that question, we are hoping that by next month we're able to serve them water from reclaim, from BVWRA or from our plant.
Can this agreement add language to it to say that this water is to be used for cooling turbines and not to pay any other encumbrances to the water district? Can we add that?
I'm sorry not to. Can we say that the...
Can we add to the language on this that, I guess, make a motion to amend to add that the water is to be used for cooling the turbines at the High Desert Power Project and not to pay any encumbrances of the water district? just want to make sure that the money is being used for what it's intended to be used for.
That would be fine.
Again, my name is Dave Mueller. I'm with HighDesertPolitics.org. At that January 18th closed session meeting, you might recall that I brought up the agreement that you had between the City of Adelanto and the City of Victorville to resolve the water dispute over reclaim or over replacement and makeup water. And part of that agreement was that MWA is owed over $600,000 by the City of Victorville for replacement water and makeup water. And I'm just curious if this money is going to be used to pay that encumbrance, even though it says it's going to be used for the High Desert Power Plant, because obviously the reclaimed water was approved and was going to be used to cool the turbines. So why would they need $600,000 to cool turbines if the reclaimed water is going to do that function? Why get the money, or why reserve the water? Just go ahead and make sure, prove that that $600,000 will be used only for water to cool turbines. And I'm just wondering how part of the settlement on that agreement was that you would pay the MWA. You'll drop the $2 million that were in dispute between Victorville and the City of Adelanto over reclaimed water, or I'm sorry, replacement water and makeup water, and you would pay the $600,000 plus that is owed to the MWA. That's due by April, I believe, of this year, so that the water master can file her report with the court. Thank you.
I think that
Council,
yeah.
I'm not sure I think I understand the question is the water that's being purchased be used what it's purchased for, and the answer is yes. And why is there a net revenue of $31,200? Because of the overall agreement, and to ensure all of the things that have to occur, there's a 5.2 administrative fee that's paid by High Desert Power Partners in order for us to enter into the agreements with MWA to purchase water, to transfer them, to be able to keep the book straight. The water is to be used by the High Desert Power Partner and nobody else. And so I'm not sure what the confusion is.
As I recall, sitting on the Water District Board 7-10 years ago, when the power project came into existence, this was a standard transaction. I don't recall how often it happened during the year. The power project needs to buy water from the aqueduct. They have to buy it through the purveyor. It was with the Water District. Now it's through the city. This is not something that can be done. I mean, you can't do anything other than what we've done in this motion with this money. I don't understand the controversy. It's just as straightforward as it can be. The power project is buying water, and they have to buy it through us.
From the aqueduct. We're acting as the salesman is about it. In regard to the other Adelanto issue, this is not agendized here, but we'd be more than happy to try to explain that again.
I think as soon as we can produce water out of that treatment plant and sell to the power project, we're going to do that the minute we can.
That's the intent.
Just to make one other thing, there's only two ways to add water to the ground basin up here: rainwater and aqueduct water. There's no other way. Whenever we can purchase and inject the water into the ground from the aqueduct, that's a net plus for the Victor Valley, regardless of who puts it there or what purpose. So anytime you're seeing water from the aqueduct, if we could buy the maximum amount allotable every year and pump it into our basin, assuming the basin could retain it, I'm not sure that would be the case, but if that were in a perfect world, that might be it. That would be a good purchase, because then we would never have water shortages. So there's only two ways: rainwater and aqueduct water. And anytime you see somebody purchasing aqueduct water, They got here to do business, and the only way to do business is to buy it from the aqueduct because we don't have any additional waters. The ground basin is even right now. We're not on a debt according to the MWA. So anybody comes in and needs water, they have to add to the basin, and they do that by buying it out of the aqueduct. And usually the city of Victorville or some other agency like that is a facilitator of that process.
Now, that raises an important point, Mike. When the power project uses water for cooling, it also produces wastewater, which it treats and injects into the basin. So we're getting a net gain by that project. Groundwater is not being used.
All right, I do believe we have a motion. Is that correct?
There's a motion and a second on the floor, yes.
All right, agenda item number 6 is a request to amendment number 1 to the agreement with General Pump Company for water well maintenance and repair, extending the term of the general service provider agreement to November 23, 2011, in the amount of $185,000.
Move approval.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabral, seconded by Councilmember Kennedy.
Okay, we'll now move into the City Council agenda. Do we have any revisions to the agenda?
We do have an addendum to the agenda.
The addendum at the January 18, 2011 closed session meeting pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2B2 on the basis that the matter came to the attention of the council after the posting of the agenda. Is this what you want us to take action on now?
You can take it now or at the end of the agenda, whichever if you want to do it now, that's fine too.
All right, well, let's take it now, and you want to...
Mayor McEachran, yes, this is the approval of the settlement agreement. It was an addendum to the promissory note with the Dong family for $500,000. It was previously approved in closed session. However, at the time, I did not have and did not see the final form documents. Therefore, at that point, there was no reportable action with the intent that it be placed on this agenda. In addition, at the time, the council also authorized an appropriation of $50,000 for RCVD administrative costs, not to be paid to any of the parties involved in the litigation, but just purely for RCVD administrative costs.
I have a question. So, just so I'm clear, we refunded the $500,000 back.
Correct.
Now, what was collected from the Dong family was $550,000, correct?
Correct.
So that means Buck Johns kept $50,000?
I'm not sure if that's true or not. Keith, you'd have to answer that.
The original transaction involving the Dong family was a $550,000 cost and investment by them. $500,000 was in fact the principal amount that they invested, which was in fact the same amount that was loaned from the VRC, which is the inland affiliated group, and that money was loaned to the airport authority, $500,000. The $50,000 was a transactional cost between the individual investor and VRC1. The best I know as to how that money was expensed is it was largely expensed for transactional related costs, largely commissions, finder's fees involved in brokering the Dong transaction. Before we had entered into our settlement agreement, there was a settlement agreement involving the Dong family and the VRC, which is the inland affiliated company, and the Dong family agreed to waive their recovery of the $50,000. Their concern largely was getting the principal back that was loaned to the authorities. So effectively that was the action that we took to settle and potentially avoid any litigation.
So it's true that Buck Johns kept the $50,000? We didn't. He did, right?
I cannot attest to whether or not he kept it. I do know it was expensed. I just could not tell you how it was expensed or where it was expensed.
Keith, we would have never received it, though.
That is correct.
Who would have received it?
That's a private transaction, so the money that would have gone to VRC, which again is the Inland affiliated company, and they would use that to cover any transactionally related costs, legal costs, brokerage costs.
And that company is owned by Buck Johns?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Now, the $50,000 that is on the warrant to RCVD, that was for miscellaneous expenses. Did any of that money go to Buck Johns?
It did not. That was a totally separate transaction. That was a transaction that involved supplementing the line of credit that was previously approved by the redevelopment agency, and the line of credit was between the redevelopment agency and the RCVD, which is the city's affiliated nonprofit. That $50,000 went to the RCVD so that the RCVD could pay for its legal costs associated with having responded to the last motion, notice to terminate. I'm not sure which one it was, but effectively the costs associated with the December response to the USCIS. All legal costs incurred by the nonprofit, particularly those costs largely got expensed to the law firm that is retained by the RCVD, which is Baker and McKenzie.
Thank you.
All right, so is there any action, or you just...
We need a motion to approve addendum number 1 to the promissory note dated January 25th, 2011.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
And to approve the $50,000 appropriation. That can be included in the motion.
You know, can we separate those?
Sure.
All right, well, let's take the agreement first.
Now, this is the agreement for the refund, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then the next item will be for the additional $50,000 appropriation.
Approval.
My issue with this is, if the program is still good and we're going strong with it, why are we refunding money, but yet we're still pouring money into this program? It doesn't make sense. It contradicts itself. Either it's not working or it is working.
I suppose that either Keith or the attorney could answer that, but as I'll back up and just give a very brief explanation. When the regional center was formed and we had the go-ahead from the USCIS, which is the Customs and Immigration Services that gave the approval, the city proceeded with the agreements as approved by the federal government from the individuals who put up the money. The city of Victorville received a notice that said it was a notice of intent to terminate. And I won't go into all the explanation that this is apparently the first one in the United States, and we still don't know why. But anyway, they finally proceeded to the point that that they have terminated that EB-5 program. The city of Victorville has the city council has discussed this. We are in potential litigation in regard to people who put up the money. We're holding the money in trust. It is not being expended in case it have to be returned. We asked for a reconsideration of USCIS. That was denied, and so we're under a formal appeal at the present time. The USCIS has responded that they didn't like the methodology that was initially used. Victorville pointed out to them that it was the same methodology used at another base that they accepted. We then were able to find an individual who has reportedly some 200 cases of USCIS where they did the economic analysis for the program, and every one of them was accepted. After discussions with that individual prepared a new economic analysis. He defended the first one as being appropriate and submitted that information, and that was under consideration. USCIS acknowledged maybe that is okay, but then wondered how do we justify the expenditure if the plant's already built, and we're in the process of having a total response to them that's very lengthy, because if this matter will come back to the City Council for a final determination. Once that appeal is heard, USCIS will totally terminate the program or reinstate the program. The money that we have received after the notice of termination is being held in trust. There is the attorneys that are working on the response are optimistic, and we have to wait to determine what USCIS does. If USCIS reinstates the program, then all the money being held in trust can be expended as originally planned. If it's terminated, the City Council must make a determination at that time to abandon the program, walk away, or file litigation. That's not a determination this Council has made yet, as far as I know.
Well, the program is, I mean, it's a loan. You pay it back 5%. We don't have the money now. Why are we going to get it later? It's like going to a check cashing place to get an advance on your paycheck. So I don't know why we keep pouring money into it.
Okay, now we'll go into our public hearings. Agenda item number 3 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the introduction of Code Amendment PLN 10-00027 as set forth in the ordinance number 2272 entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville approving Amendment PLN 10-00027, a municipal code amendment to allow off-site freeway signage for retail shopping centers, City of Victorville.
Mayor McEachron, given that we are in litigation regarding signage issues, I'm requesting that we continue this item for 30 days. It would request that you'd open the public hearing, but I need to meet with the planning director and go over some issues so that it does not negatively affect ongoing litigation at this time. So I'd request that you open the public hearing and continue for 30 days.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing on agenda item number 3. Anyone wishing to address the council at this time? All right, seeing no one, then we will go ahead and continue agenda item number 3 to March 15th.
Would be correct, March 15th.
March 15th. Agenda item number 4, public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the adoption of the draft amended 2010-2011 Neighborhood Stabilization Program 3 Action Plan. I'll open the public hearing on agenda item number 4. Anyone wishing to address the council on agenda item number 4?
I have the same issue as before regarding the RDA MOU. This money is being used, from what I understand, to purchase the foreclosed homes and then sell them at a reduced rate, basically lowering our property values.
Anyone from the audience wishing to address the council on this agenda item? All right, seeing no one, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and return it to the council for decision.
Motion by Councilmember Rothschild, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
Agenda item number 5 is a public hearing to call to hear arguments for and against adding section 13.15.310 to the Victorville Municipal Code pertaining to remote caller charity bingo and the introduction of ordinance number 2273 entitled An Ordinance of the City of Victorville, City Council of the City of Victorville adding section 13.15.310 to the Victorville Municipal Code pertaining to remote caller charity bingo. I'll open the public hearing on agenda item number 5. Do we have anyone wishing to address the council on that item? All right, seeing no one, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on agenda item number 5 and return it to the council.
Mayor McEachron, I do need to read the title of the ordinance.
Please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville adding section 13.15.310 to the Victorville Municipal Code pertaining to remote caller charity bingo.
For approval?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rothschild, second by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrialis.
Agenda item number 6 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the introduction of ordinance number 2269, and at the request of staff, continue this item to March 1st, 2011 meeting. Agenda item number 6, it is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on agenda item number 6? All right, seeing no one, at the request of staff, we will continue the public hearing to March 1st, 2011. Agenda item number 7 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the introduction of ordinance number 2270, and at the request of staff, continue this item to March 1st, 2011 meeting. So we have this agenda item. It is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing on agenda item number 7. Anyone wishing to address the council? Seeing no one, we will continue that item to March 1st, 2011. Agenda item number 8, a public hearing called to hear arguments for and against the introduction of ordinance number 2271, and at the request of staff, continue this item to March 1st, 2011. We're going to have a lot of items continued to March 1st. Again, public hearing on agenda item number 8. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on agenda item number 8? Seeing no one, we will continue that item to the March 1st, 2011 meeting. Next is the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrera, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
I have a comment to make on 9A.
Okay.
You want me to make that now? Okay. I'd like to point out the amount of money we spent in January for our city attorney, which was $114,000. And also, we paid $40,000 for the Bell auditors, an audit that I cannot trust. That's it.
All right, moving on to written communications, requests to adopt resolution number 11-007 entitled "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville Approving a Fee Credit Agreement Relating to Community Facilities District Number 07-01.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
Agenda item number 11, request to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 3 to the waste disposal agreement, WDA, between the city of Victorville and the county of San Bernardino.
Motion by Councilmember Rothschild, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
Agenda item number 12, request to approve estimated annual expenditures not to exceed $30,000 during fiscal year 2010-2011 for meter reading and data management services provided by Trimark Associates, Inc.
Move approval.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrera, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
Agenda item number 13, request to approve the Verizon utility agreement pertaining to the La Mesa and Nisqually I-15 interchange in the amount of $1,310,807.
Move approval.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrera, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
Do we have the money for the interchange yet?
Where's, oh, Doug.
On agenda item number 13, Administrative Services.
On this series of items, actually, most of the funding for these items is coming from federal grants and other monies, not from the development impact fees. At the last meeting, Mayor McEachran asked that we agendize as soon as possible the funding plan for the La Mesa Nisqually interchange itself, and that hasn't been scheduled yet. Once we get financed through the audit, we're going to work on that. There are a lot of different options available for us to be able to complete that project, and we want to bring them forward quickly as we can.
How much money do we have in the DIF?
There's actually 5 separate DIF accounts.
There is a public buildings diff, there is a park and recreation diff, there's a fire diff, there's a police diff, and there is a road service diff. I believe the road service diff is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20 million.
Agenda item number 14 is request to approve the Southern California Edison Utility Agreement and Joint Use Agreement and to authorize staff to make non-substantive changes such as using the standard signature format, all pertaining to the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 interchange in the amount of $1,078,000.
$1,078,000.
78,000. I apologize.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrialis.
Agenda item number 15 is request to give direction to staff to work with the California Department of Fish and Game to deed and fee the subject mitigation land, 6.12 acres, to that agency pertaining to the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 interchange in the amount of $54,500.
One of those stupidity regulations the state puts out on any city, county building, roads, or streets in this state, the mitigation of squirrels and endangered species and bugs and everything else you want to think of. Millions of these dollars are out there, have nothing to do with anything except preserving some people in an administrative position and serving no useful purpose but to delay these interchanges by years and millions of dollars. This is just a handful of pocket change. You'll see this come up from time to time.
You probably want to make the motion.
I hate it. Recall me if I didn't vote for it, because then you sit there on this stuff, and I can't do that. But it's very, very bad. I mean, if you want to speed up the state a bit in terms of saving money and the process, the business community and the community, get rid of these regulations, these environmental things here. There's no endangered squirrel next to the freeway or the interchange that we've been working on for 10 years, and that would be true any place in this state where they're working on corridors like this.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, seconded by Councilmember Rothschild.
Did I second that? Oh.
You did.
True. The only time you have a shot at this for real is if you go to Sacramento and run for state or assembly or senate, then you have a shot at some of these regulations.
Agenda item number 16 is request to approve the agreement with the Desert Tortoise Preserve Committee, Inc., and to authorize staff to pay $54,650 at such time that it will be due as required in the agreement, all pertaining to the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 interchange.
Ditto.
Motion by Councilmember Rothschild, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
This is the federal ones. The other one was the state ones. So I just shared that with you.
Councilmember Kennedy, may I get your vote? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just clarify, this is one item that does show that it's being paid out of development impact fees. Not all of them were from federal grants.
Agenda item number 17, requests to appropriate $1,079,880 of federal demonstration grant funds to the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 interchange project in fiscal year 2010-2011 capital improvement program budget for right-of-way fund 50120, and 2, transfer $270,000 from utility relocation to right-of-way in the La Mesa Nisqually I-15 interchange project in fiscal year 2010-2011 capital improvement program budget fund 40520.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrialis.
Item number 18, request to appropriate additional funding of $17,800 from the Storm Drain Utility Fund for unbudgeted emergency work and ratify the signed contract with High Desert Underground for the repair of Turner Wash Sewer Trunk.
Mayor McEachern?
I actually need to.
You have a conflict?
Yeah, I have a conflict.
And I believe, in abundance of caution, I'd advise Councilwoman Valles, she may have a conflict too, and she has a conflict also on item 22, but I guess you'll come back for that, so.
Okay, we have item 18, request to appropriate additional funding of $17,800 from the storm drain or utility fund for unbudgeted emergency work, and ratify the signed contract with High Desert Underground for the repair of Turner Wash Sewer Trunk.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 19, presentation request to post a notice of formation of a Water Commission and Senior Citizens Advisory Committee and seek applicants for appointment thereto.
I have a question. Is this Water Commission or any of these commissions going to be paid positions? Is that
I'm the
what's being
advocate for the
proposed?
Water Commission, and I would say absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't believe, we do have the Youth Advisory Committee. They are not paid. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee is something that I asked for 2 years ago. I don't know why it never got started up. You know, I'm thankful we're revisiting the item. I don't know why we need to, but I would really like to see that move forward. And, you know, I don't know, perhaps as we look at developing the Water Commission, you know, the city of Victorville is providing utilities, and it might be appropriate that it not just be water specific, but leave that maybe to staff to come back to us with some recommendations there.
Okay, just so we're clear that this commission that we're voting on is not a paid position. Everybody agrees to that?
I agree.
Actually, I think instead of commission, it should be a committee. I think it would, most, all our advisory, there are advisory committees, and they don't get paid. So we can have uniformity.
That was my term, the commission term, but I think the Planning Commission gets a stipend.
Yeah.
Are there any other commissions that get anything?
No other committee.
None of the advisory committees.
We should call it a committee then, because it's just intended to be a water advisory committee.
So you made a motion to change that?
Can we just change the language? You need a
Yes.
motion to amend?
No, that's okay. We can
Let's just
change
change the
that.
language.
Mhm.
Water committee.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Councilmember Rothschild.
All right, agenda item number 20 is a presentation of request to appoint Vanessa Herrera to the Community Services Advisory Committee.
For approval?
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cabrialis, second by Councilmember Valles.
All right, presentation request to select alternate representatives to committees, and have city clerk read those committees off to us.
There are 4 listed in the agenda item, but there's actually only 3 alternates that need to be appointed. One of the committees that was listed is the Public Entities Risk Management Authority, and I have since learned that our risk manager, Chuck Bouquet, is actually the alternate on that and has attended those meetings. The other ones are the R2508 Joint Land Use Study Advisory Committee.
I've been going to those things. It shows up maybe once a year, if you're lucky. It's a good committee to be on because you never have to go to anything or do anything. But it's for the whole high desert region. It's a federal committee that all the communities in the high desert belong to. When they call a meeting, which has been over a year since I've been to one.
Who's the alternate?
Nobody. I'm the person that goes.
Yeah, these are committees that don't have an alternate appointed.
So do we have someone that would be willing to serve?
I think the mayor should be on that.
I don't have enough to do. But if it's only once a year and that's the desire of the council, I'd be fine with
That's
that.
if I don't go.
Right. That's if you don't go. Okay, what's the next one?
The other one is the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District, which Councilmember Rothschild is the delegate for.
I don't mind being the alternate for that.
Okay. Any objections to that? All right. And then the last one?
High Desert Corridor Joint Powers Authority, which you are the delegate for.
I'll be the alternate for that one.
Okay. All right.
Somebody else wants it.
Is that okay with everyone? All right, then the motion would be to approve me as alternate for the first committee, joint land use, to have Councilwoman Baez serve as our alternate on the Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District, and you have Mayor Pro Tem Rudy Cabriolas serve as our alternate to the High Desert Corridor Joint Powers Authority, and I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mayor McEachron, second by Councilmember Kennedy.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 2.
You wait for Ms. Baez to.
Oh. This is a presentation of request to select a council member to serve as the alternate representative on the Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority. I did bring this to the council previously that I felt having our city manager serve as the alternate, although has been appropriate, it would probably be best to have a council member serving in that capacity. So interested in anyone wishing to step up into that position?
Do that?
I'd do it if you don't. I don't take it. I don't need anything. I just would go if I had to.
All right. Well, why don't we give something to Councilmember Kennedy?
Got to give me something.
Got to give you something. All right. Then I'll go ahead and make that motion that we appoint Councilmember Kennedy as our alternate to VVWRA.
Motion by Mayor McEachron, second by Mayor Pro Tem Cabriolas.
Okay, agenda item number 23, appoint 2 council members to serve on the Housing, Community Development, HCD Grants Review Committee.
I would like to serve on that.
Okay. Mayor Cabriolas would like to serve on that. Is there anyone else wishing to? If not, I will continue to serve. I've served on that in the past if that's the council's desire. So I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor McEachron, I believe there might be speaker cards for this item.
Oh. Yeah, you'll have to forgive me all. This is just to appoint 2 council members, but you do have a lot of folks here wishing to address us on this item. I'm going to start Gary Madden. Oh, I have 23.
This isn't for the grants. This is just to get the 2 council members into the pipeline to do it.
I think.
Yeah, all of you that turned in cards on agenda item number 23, we are not actually hearing those grants tonight. We are just appointing 2 council members to a committee that will oversee that. So I don't know if you all still wish to speak. There'll be opportunity for that again in the future. So I'll just go through the cards. Let me know if you still. Midge Nicosia. Right. This is only to appoint 2 council members to a committee to review the grants, and we'll make sure that you're notified since we have her. Cassandra Black. Oh, okay. Charles B. Hicks Jr. Okay. Denise Bonds. Okay. Deborah Davis. Okay. Anita Gomez. Okay. And Christine Villegas? Okay. Again, we'll make sure that you get all of you get notification as we move through this process, and it's actually back before the council for us to make decisions. I'm sorry. I apologize. I realize that, and I do apologize for that.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, seconded by Mayor McEachron.
Okay, agenda item number 24 is a presentation of requests to live broadcast city council meetings. Ms. Baez, this was your request?
Yes. I'd like to request that we broadcast live stream video of our council meetings. I think it would help in transparency and getting more people involved in city government and involved in their council. And I talked to Mr. Cox, and he said that we've had the equipment all along, and it would be no extra money to run the equipment. So is that still correct?
Clarification.
Yeah.
I don't have any costs. The equipment is here. We do have cameras that were installed when the building was built. And so there wouldn't be a significant capital cost, or maybe a small cost, I don't know. Would be happy to research that. But where some costs, and I'm not saying it's a lot or a little, where some costs could be realized is that once the video playback is available, it takes more bandwidth, more server space, more access to the internet, if you will, a bigger pipeline to the internet for the city, potentially. I'm not saying that's a huge cost, but there would be some operations and maintenance costs associated with that.
Well, I think a lot of cities do it. It seems to me it's a good idea, and we ought to research. Let's know what our costs are, and then we can decide if we're willing to do that. But I like the idea myself.
All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Well, and let's understand, the motion is to investigate it. Let's wait until we know exactly what it's going to cost us. Is that hard to find out?
No, Councilmember Kennedy, I don't think that would take a whole lot of research to find out. I would imagine we could have this back on within 30 days or so.
Is that agreeable, Angela?
Yes, I just would have thought we would have known that tonight. I thought we were going to vote on it tonight, but okay.
Motion by Councilmember Kennedy, second by Mayor McEachron.
As important as the costs are, I think it won't change my mind once it comes back. I'll still vote for it. I mean, the city spends plenty of money on other things, and this is making us more transparent. So I'm very supportive of it. Presentation of requests to record closed session meetings. Again, Ms. Fias, this was your item.
Yes, I would like to request that closed session meetings be recorded. I think that it's important that we have a record of what we're being told by staff. I'm concerned that not getting all of the information and then later being told that I was told the information in closed session. And I just think a record would be necessary for any complaints or anything that goes forward.
This definitely should not cost us anything, and it would actually, well, yeah, we need it. I'm sure we have a tape recorder, but I think it would alleviate the requirement of our city clerk to sit there and take notes the whole time, because at least it'll be recorded. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
Member McEachran, I'm not opposed to it at all. I would just urge that we reinforce the fact that these are privileged communications, and in order to waive the privilege, I request that it would require the vote of a majority of the council or a ruling by a court of competent jurisdiction, so that you just can't be subject to anybody's subpoena to get the records, etc., so that you preserve your privileges.
Yeah, I think that's obviously known, because a lot of these things are ongoing negotiations, property negotiations, things that can't be disclosed, but just for the purposes of having a recorded record of what goes on, I think it's appropriate.
Andre, was that an informational comment?
No, I'd like, my recommendation would be that your motion include the requirement that in order for the privilege to be waived, it requires either a unanimous, or not a unanimous, a majority vote of the council members, because the entire council has the privilege, not one member, or a court of competent jurisdiction to make a ruling.
So, like, if I had a complaint, I would have to get it agendized, and then they would have to vote to release that recording for a specified date.
The council would have to vote in any case to waive the privilege. No council member can waive the privilege by themselves, and if they were to waive it by themselves, they are potentially violating the Brown Act. It is a privilege that belongs to the majority, essentially the entire council member, so it would require a majority vote. The only other requirement I would recommend is that you would require a court judge to require, if the council does not vote and somebody else is seeking information, you'd require a third-party independent court judge to make that determination. That way you'd protect your privileges. Prevent abuses, essentially.
Before I don't have a problem as long as we have all the proviso, the protection built into this thing to protect the city, the council, and majority on the council, anything else. But I'd rather see it in writing, detailed in writing, specifically before we vote on it. And then I don't care if you make a recording or not. I mean, the privacy, the protection of the city, and the activity that goes on in those executive sessions must be protected. And so until I see the language, I would be against it. But if you incorporate the language in the next meeting with Andre's provisors, I'd then vote.
I agree with that.
You know, I was going to go ahead and make the motion, but if that, since that's a majority,
I want to see
you want to see it in writing?
I can have it back for the next meeting, no problem. Just those two provisos.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right, so we'll have that back on. We'll have that on the March 1st agenda. All right, we'll move into council member reports. Presentation of agenda items for upcoming city council meetings. I'll start with Councilmember Rothschild.
Just comments? Is that what?
Not comments yet. Just do you have anything for a future agenda?
Oh, no.
Okay. Councilmember Kennedy.
None.
Yes, I'd like to agendize funding the vacant police officer positions. The information that we were given in the last meeting, it stated that we had 5 more cops than we actually have. I found out later that 5 of those police officers are school police, so they shouldn't have even been counted because we don't even pay for them. They're part of the district. They're not on the streets. They're working the schools. So our situation with lack of police is even worse than we know. So I think that's very important to get on the next agenda to fund those positions.
What exactly are we going to agendize?
To vote if we're going to fund those positions.
I'll go along with that. I'd agree with that.
Okay. So in essence, that's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
No? No? Mike? Aye. Okay. You get that, Carolee?
Was Mayor Pro Tem Cabrales the no?
Yes.
Okay, no.
That wasn't a vote to fund the positions. That's a vote to agendize the issue.
That's right. That's all I voted for,
Yeah.
was to agendize it. I didn't vote to approve the funding.
Yeah, and I want to explain my vote is that we have a process that includes the review of the budget, and when we do that, we take everything within the city, all the departments, and we start piecemealing things. You know, it's not gonna work to the benefit of the total budget that we're looking at. But that was my concern. It's not public safety is number one in our agenda and always has been and will continue to be. But when we need to look at the total picture and not just cherry pick or just pick one department by itself. And that's my concern. But it's going to be agendized, and that's fine.
Okay. I have something else. I'd like to also agendize getting an estimate on providing ergonomically correct seating for all of our residents, residents that may have disabilities and cannot sit in those seats that don't have the armrest or the back.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
All right. All right. The presentation of reports from council members. I'm actually going to go first because I think it's important that the city, this council, have a formal response to Councilwoman Valla's, I think, 11-page letter that we received. There's quite a bit here, and I want to make sure that she does get a response, both from staff, where it's referring to staff, as well as from our city attorney. But I'd also like to take it a step further because I have some concerns that whatever the city attorney might be giving an opinion on, that she does not give credibility to, and I want credibility given to whatever opinions are coming out, especially with respect to those items that she's requested. So I'd like us to consider, and if this needs to go on a future agenda, I guess, then it does, but consider having some independent counsel review those opinions of our city attorney with respect to those items that she's brought forward and given an opinion. I've talked with our city attorney about this because I think it's important that we put to bed whatever the issues are with respect to credibility with our city attorney, and having some independent counsel review his opinions, especially with respect to her request, I think is important. That's just coming from me. I don't know if it's the desire of the rest of the council, but I think it's important that we do that.
I have not seen that letter, so I don't have the faintest idea of what we're talking about. I'm not asking you to...
Okay. Well, you should have received it in your inbox, so I would, if you haven't, please see our city clerk. It was distributed. So with that, I'll go to you for your comment.
Okay. I'd like to make some comments regarding our financial statements. It has been my stated opinion that the financial information provided to the City Council is inadequate to provide the City Council with meaningful information that can be relied upon for the City Council to make financial decisions. The inadequacy of financial reporting and financial controls appears to be the primary factor that contributed to the misinformation provided to the City Council on the interchange project. I base the opinion of the fact that the financial information being provided to the City Council does not contain even minimal information as to cash balances, investments that are available for use in operations, liabilities, contracted obligations, bonded indebtedness, cash flows, statements and receipts and expenditures, etc. To the contrary, the information being provided to the City Council consists of limited, extracted receipts and disbursements that are often confusing as to which specific fund or legal entity is involved. I am requesting that the City Council formally act to require the appropriate staff to redesign the financial reports so as to include the following components in a quarterly report to the Council: general fund, a statement of assets and liabilities, a summary schedule of all encumbrances and future commitments, a statement of receipts and disbursements with the year-to-date information and comparisons to appropriate budget amounts with variances. As to significant variances, a brief discussion and explanation. Regarding the Enterprise Fund, VMS, a statement of assets and liabilities, a summary schedule of all encumbrances and future commitments, a statement of income and expenses with year-to-date information and comparisons to the appropriated budget amounts, budget amounts with variances. As to significant variances, a brief discussion and explanation, and do the same for the rest of the entities. And a schedule of debt and debt service. I am recommending at this time the format be used for the budgets, perhaps not in detail, but in a summary for each fund that will list beginning cash flow, cash plus receipts, less expenditures, equal ending cash. I hope that this will bring about a solution to the inability of staff to determine how much cash exists and in which funds will result in reporting this critical information to the council for its deliberations. In addition, various city funds and departments and various with legal entities under the control of the city have engaged in significant borrowing from each other. Management has made commitments in the past to bring these items to the council for consideration and authorization, and to report to the council on their status thereafter. This has not occurred. I am requesting that an intercity loans be scheduled with each quarterly report to include dates and amounts of borrowings, repayment terms, and source of repayment. In the past, the financial data being provided to the council has been done so as a written report and acknowledged as received with no discussion. I am requesting that this be revised quarterly report be a separate public agenda item, and that Mr. Cox or appropriate staff make a detailed presentation with the City Council and the public being afforded the opportunity to ask questions. I realize that staff may not have the expertise to develop such a report. However, Councilmember Kennedy is a CPA and a recognized expert in municipal accounting and financial reporting. I would like to ask that he assist staff in developing a meaningful financial report to the City Council that includes the information discussed. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Cabriolas?
I don't have any.
Okay, Councilmember Kennedy?
Let me correct one thing. I'm a recognized expert in a couple areas in my profession, but not municipal accounting. I don't do any municipalities. I do a lot of nonprofit work. Councilmember Valles has made a large request to get an idea of the scope of that request. You need to read the audit report that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. It is a roughly 120-page document, something like that. I think that a lot of that information is important. It's important to understand the funds. It's really important to understand the inter-fund borrowing. I certainly agree with that. I think a lot of what's in that request is going to be extremely time-consuming for a staff that is overtaxed at the moment, and probably will be for the near future with all the document requests they're responding to on a daily basis. I think there is a way to put that information together on a quarterly basis that would be usable and meaningful. All of it, I'm afraid, is going to be a huge task. But I think we need to work on the project. I wouldn't mind agendizing it, but I'd like to get a feel for what's realistic on a quarterly basis before we start voting on things. Because if we handed that on staff's plate tomorrow, they would have no way to respond to it. They just wouldn't. And so now we're looking at some significant costs of outside people, and I don't think anyone wants to do that. But I think we need to work on that effort.
Just my concern is that the audit report that you talked about, will that audit report be coming from the Bell auditors?
They're not the Bell auditors, they're the Victorville auditors. They are a nationally known, extremely competent CPA firm. They do more municipal audits in the state of California than any other audit firm. They're extremely competent and qualified. The audit committee will come back with a recommendation, and frankly, I think we're probably going to suggest we go out for RFPs. But I certainly expect that Meyer, Hoffman, and McCann will participate in that process. These are extremely qualified people, and we've had some real serious disagreements with them. I've had a major disagreement with them, but they are our auditors, and their work product is first rate.
Councilman Rapoport.
Yeah, I want to take on the Daily Press again, and in the process help a little bit. This is Sunday's newspaper, their favorite hit day on Victorville. They had their EB5 program up here, but here's their headlines on front page of the Sunday newspaper. Redevelopment agency scrambles to justify existence. A perfectly good article. Jerry Brown teed up the question about do we want RDAs or not. Then they went into an interview with Hesperia, which is perfectly legitimate, and Hesperia tooted their horn and said a few things. The numbers were pretty impressive in here, about 400 jobs, I believe, and whatever. And then here's their last paragraph on page 1. You have to go to another page 7 to find the rest. But here's the last paragraph that I read on this article after hearing Hesperia, how well they've done. It says, however, that's the first words in their paragraph there. However, the 4 Victor Valley RDAs reported 0 jobs, 0 square footage, and of new property during the same time frame, though Victorville took $38 million. And I'd read that as saying, you know, Hesperia did okay for the last 5 years, and Victorville did nothing, 0. Well, here's what we've done with our RDA here. This isn't specifically the last 5 years. It's actually about the last 7 years with the airport out there. We have 22,500 permanent jobs at the airport that weren't there before when the base closed. We have 500 temporary jobs that have been worked through that process. Over at Foxborough, we have over 400 permanent jobs, all good paying jobs that have been paying into our community, plus the property tax increment. So this spreadsheet, the Daily Press had, and they had to do their little number on Victorville again. The last paragraph here is a total distortion of the truth. You get into page 7 back in there, and buried deep in there is a qualifier that you would, I had to read it twice before I even caught it. They lead off by Victorville reported. Well, if we reported, we didn't report anything, so it must have been nothing, must have. No, you're not required to report anything. I'm not sure why Hesperia made a report to the state. They said they did, and I don't doubt they might have. But the fact is that there's no report required. But they had the spreadsheet. All they had to do to make the story balance and make it reasonable to the headline, which is to justify RDAs, start mentioning the jobs, the permanent jobs that we have out there necessarily, not the least of which, by the way, is power plant number 1, which has cranked in over $40 million, not only to the city and RDA, but also to the school districts and the water district as well. Those kind of numbers are pretty impressive when you look at the things that are going on out there. You never see that in the Daily Press. The only thing they have on Sunday is how to take down the city of Victorville. And these kind of paragraphs are total distortions. This is an editorial page. This isn't a front page of anybody's newspaper.
Okay, with that, I have nothing else, so we are adjourned.